Hey guys, Golden Spat here. Wanted to make a video talking about summoners in TFT Set 2. And specifically that includes Annie, Azir, Malzahar, Yorick, Zed, and finally Zyra. And the reason I wanted to make this is because there's a lot of cool item interactions, some ability things, and just general knowledge about summoners that a lot of people don't know. So with that being said, let's dive in. The first thing that's useful to know is how summoned minions' player damage at the end of a round is calculated. So take a look at this Riot Mort tweet, where he basically explains that if you have minions left at the end of the round and the summoner who summoned them has died, you'll take damage as if the summoner was still alive. So it's not based on the number of summoned minions, but rather on the summoner itself. Next, let's spend a little bit of time talking about ability power and items and how they work with summoners. And for the purposes of this next section, I'm actually going to exclude Zed because he's a unique summoner, but for all the ones you see there, their damage is actually based off of ability power and not AD, so that's super important to keep in mind for the next part. In TFT, if you ever hover over a champ's spell, you'll see that there's kind of a blue AP icon that shows magic damage, and you can kind of use that as a clue to better understand how an item will impact an ability. And if you look at summoners, their spells also have that AP icon there. So we immediately have an idea of how AP items are going to interact with the summoned minions. Before we dive into the AP items, one cool thing to note is that magic resistance actually will decrease summoned minions' damage, so Declaw can be super powerful against summoners. So let's start talking about items that work quote-unquote with summons, and there's Morello, Jeweled Gauntlet, Inferno Cinder, Mage's Cap, Hextech Gunblade, and finally Ludens Echo, sort of. Basically anything with AP will buff summoned minions, but these items have kind of cool interactions worth digging into. So starting off with Morello, a lot of people know that the burn debuff actually does indeed work with the summoned units, and you'll see in this clip there's a level 3 Malz. He summons his minions at the top of the screen, and you can see the healing debuff indicated by the hearts with the swords going through it on the minions he's attacking. But there's one part that people don't really realize, and it's that if the summoner dies before the minions do, they actually won't apply the Morello debuff anymore. So keep an eye out on the Vlad on the bottom right there, and you'll see that a Malz minion attacks him after the Malzahar has died and does not apply the debuff. So it's a bit hard to see, so watch it in slow-mo. The minion attacks, does 112 damage, but no healing debuff is applied. Next up is Jeweled Gauntlet, and Jeweled Gauntlet is a really neat item with summoners because the summoned minions actually will benefit from the crit chance and have the ability to crit afterwards. So if you take a look at this level 3 Azir and you watch the clip replayed in slow-mo, his summoned minions at the top are critting for 928. So very powerful, very cool item. Now let's look at Inferno Cinder and see what happens there. So we've got a Yorick in this clip who has the Inferno Cinder, and he will create some minions who attack the Syndra on the right, and they actually do indeed apply the Inferno damage over time effect. So watch the minion get summoned, whacks the Syndra, and the Inferno hex below is set. Mage's Cap is a really powerful item with summoners, and you'll see in this Toast clip that he has an Annie 2 with a Mage's Cap, and when she casts her spell, there are indeed 2 big scary bears that pop out. Next, let's look at Hextech Gunblade, because a lot of people ask whether the spell vamp works with summoned minions, the Lifesteal, and the answer is it does. So if you watch this Malz, he gets damaged, he summons his minions, and he heals up based on their auto attacks. So it's a bit hard to see, but watch in slow-mo and you'll catch it. Next up, Ludens Echo is an interesting item with summoners in the sense that it works, but it's not the best. So if you check out this Malz here, he summons his minions at the top right, they hit the vein, and the first auto attack of the minion is actually what triggers the Ludens proc. So not ideal, you won't get a lot of procs, wouldn't recommend it on a summoner. Zed is such a unique summoner that he really deserves his own section. And the thing to keep in mind with Zed is that the items are not unique, so each clone can basically trigger their own procs, like Ionic, Spark, Redemption, GA, Light Buff, etc. And things like Deathblade, actually the stacks will carry over to the copies. So check out this clip, which showcases a lot of those items at once. You've got the Light Zed with GA and Redemption on one side, and then on the other side, a Deathblade Zed. And you'll see that the Light Zeds are all receiving the Light buff every time one of them dies. The Deathblade Zeds are receiving copies of the Deathblades at certain stacks. So very cool clip that shows off a lot of the item synergies. And finally, Azir is a little bit unique in the sense that attack speed actually will map to the clone attacks as well. So things like Rage Blade, Talisman of Light, the Blade Master Spat are all super powerful. And in this clip, you can see the Azir just doing massively fast attacks and the clones copying them. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. The support has been awesome, and I know I couldn't cover everything with summoners probably, but I hope you learned something interesting or cool. And as always, if you have anything interesting that you think I should do a video on, please leave a comment below. So, cheers.